Good afternoon. My name is Michael Graham. I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. The NTSB is charged by Congress to investigate all civil aviation accidents and significant accidents in the other modes of transportation. This is the beginning of a long process, this investigation of this aircraft accident, and typically an NTSB investigation like this will take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. The team will be on site for about a week or 2 weeks gathering evidence of this accident, perishable evidence, and that's all we'll be doing at this time is gathering evidence. Yesterday at 10:08 Central Daylight Time, an MD-87 attempted to take off from runway 36 at Houston Executive Airport. The aircraft exited the paved surface and struck the perimeter fence of the airport. The deep debris path extended beyond the airport fence, and it also suggests that the left wing struck trees before coming to its final resting place. The majority of the fire damage occurred after the aircraft came to rest. There were 18 passengers and three crew members on board. The crew members consisted of 2 pilots and 1 flight mechanic. All persons on board evacuated the aircraft. It's been reported to the NTSB that there were 2 minor injuries and no fatalities. On behalf of the NTSB, we are thankful that nobody was injured given the fiery images of the scene. We want to thank all the local fire, rescue, and law enforcement personnel who worked together to respond to the accident scene. The aircraft is owned by 987 Investments, LLC, and was operated as a Part 91 flight. The NTSB investigator in charge is Mr. Dan Bauer. Assisting him is Senior Investigator Michael Hoff. Dan and Michael will be joined by several other NTSB investigators and will be examining the following areas, including airworthiness, power plants and engines, survival factors, operational factors and human performance, survival factors, maintenance records, air traffic control, and recorders. The NTSB arrived on scene early this morning and examined the site of the wreckage and the debris path just north of the airport perimeter fence. Currently, investigators have begun interviewing crew members, passengers, and witnesses to the accident. The team is just starting to document the ground scars off the paved surface north of the airport runway and in the final resting place of the aircraft. The team is also examining the conditions of the engines, and we've also secured our first batch of maintenance records for the aircraft. Black boxes or recorders. The NTSB has secured the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, and they are currently en route to Washington, D.C. to be downloaded. We do note that both the recorders had suffered heavy fire damage. At this time, parties to the investigation include the Boeing Company, which is the manufacturer of the aircraft, Pratt & Whitney, the manufacturer of the engines, the Federal Aviation Administration, and as the investigation continues, other parties may be named. We'd like to ask if anybody in the public has any photos or videos of the accident. You can share them with us by sending them to witness@ntsb.gov. Again, that's witness@ntsb.gov. We will provide further updates as they become available, and you can follow the NTSB on Twitter at NTSB_newsroom. Again, that's at NTSB_newsroom. I will take some questions now. I ask that you raise your hands when I call on you. Please state your name and your affiliation.
Yes, sir. My name is Devin Clark, reporter for KPRC News in Houston. I know that the investigation just began and you all have a lot to look through, but are there any preliminary indicators of why this plane veered off and struck the fence and then the trees?
We have we will not be sharing any preliminary indications at this time. We have a lot of indications out there that we need to gather, and any processing or evaluating or analysis of the data we have here will not start until after we leave the scene.
Hi, Rosa Flores with CNN. I have a few questions. I wanted to ask about flight attendants, because I noticed that you mentioned that there were 2 pilots and a flight mechanic. Is it usual that there would be no flight attendant, and is that a violation of the rules?
That is not a violation of the rules. This was a Part 91 operation.
And
So,
what does that mean? Sorry, could you explain?
it was a general aviation flight. It wasn't a charter or an airline scheduled flight, so it wasn't required at that time.
And then one other question about how everybody escaped alive. I think that's one of the things that everybody wants to know about, and that was in relation to my question about the flight attendant, because it's usually the flight attendants that are the heroes in these cases, that they help everybody get out of the plane. Anything that you can share about how all these people got out of the plane safe and sound?
At this time, we don't know that at this time. That's what we're investigating here. We want to know ourselves. We have a group of survival factor experts here that want to know that, because obviously it's a big deal that we had no fatalities, and we want to know why. So if something like this happens again, we hopefully have the recommendations in place to prevent it from being a fatality accident.
Are you able to share the size?
Give somebody else
deployed or something? Okay, so-
Give somebody else a chance.
Hi, I'm Calvin Keith from Fox 26 News. And we know the plane took down some power lines and a couple thousand people were without power. Did the plane hit the power lines first or the fence first? And I'm also wondering if we can get a copy of the flight manifest.
Okay, there's a lot in that question there. Let me repeat. You're wondering about when the aircraft struck the power lines, and then a copy of the flight manifest. Well, first of all, we do not release flight manifests. That's not what we do at the NTSB. Second of all, the aircraft departed through the airport perimeter fence across the road. There was another fence that was below the power lines, went through there, took out the power lines between 2 power poles, and came to rest north of that site. We're documenting that scene at this time. The power lines were taken out, but no poles were destroyed in the process, so the power company actually had the lines repaired by the time we got out there this morning.
Zori Shaw with ABC News. I know you can't comment specifically about this investigation, but just based on your extensive knowledge about planes, why would it take so long for a plane to stop after a pilot tried to abort takeoff?
That's a good question. That's what we're here to find out. We're just gathering evidence right now. We haven't even walked the runway and looked at the tire marks that are on the runway, and we haven't even finished documenting the wheel marks after the aircraft had left the surface. So we have a lot of questions ourselves at this time, and that's why we're here.
And I know you said the majority of the fire started after people evacuated, which indicates to me some of the fire started when they were still in the plane. Were they evacuating a smoke-filled jet or a fiery jet? Is that the accurate to say?
We don't know that at this time, and that's why we're doing interviews with the passengers starting today already.
Lodia with ABC out of Houston. My question is, could you describe what the wreckage looks like? I mean, I know you said even the black box recordings could be, they are very damaged right now. Y'all are hoping to get something out of it. What does it look like out there?
Sure. The question is, what does the wreckage look like out there? There actually isn't a lot of wreckage out there. The main fuselage is pretty much burnt all the way to the ground and has collapsed upon itself. About the only thing that's left is the tail section of the aircraft, so the vertical tail, the rudder, the horizontal stabilizer, the elevators there, and the aircraft engines are still hanging on the aft section of the tail, and that's about it. There's a debris field after the aircraft had departed through the fences, and there's debris all through there that we'll be documenting. I already asked your question right there.
David Gonzalez with KHU here. You said, what can you tell us about previous safety records, maintenance records on this aircraft?
That's some of the question is what can we tell you about the previous maintenance records or any information on the aircraft? That's currently what we're doing right now. We have a team that's going into that is trying to get all the maintenance records on the aircraft, and we're looking at the history of the aircraft and the operation at this time. But we have none of that information to be released at this time. So somebody else.
Doug Beckley with Houston Chronicle. You said that one of the things that you have not yet done is walk the runway.
Correct.
To see that there were tire marks. Is that to say that there were tire marks caused by this incident?
Well, we haven't had a chance to do our survey of the runway yet. We have seen pictures of tire marks that look as if they coincide with where the aircraft left the runway, and then we definitely have wheel marks in the grass north of there. But yet we have not had a chance to document that and look that over
Does that
yet.
imply that they're braking? That they're attempting to brake, or is that?
That's part of the investigation we're going into. We don't know at this time, and that's what we're here to determine. Okay, we'll go back around here.
Devin Clark again with KPRC News. Oh, we saw a video that appears to show a puff of smoke leaving the engine right before it started to really taxi down the runway. Is that normal for engines and these types of planes to blow out puffs of smoke? I know you can't comment specifically, but do these engines blow out puffs of smoke like that?
The question is basically that there was supposedly some video of a puff of smoke coming from one of the engines on takeoff. We have heard that. We have not seen the video ourselves yet, but that's obviously something that we're interested in.
Yes, Mary Mercado with ABC News. Can you speak to who sustained the injuries? Was it crew? Was it passengers? Can you let us know any more about that?
Okay, the question is about the status of injuries to any crew members or passengers on board. We have no status on that. We wouldn't be releasing anything like that as far as the NTSB goes, but we have no information on
Do you
that.
have the nature of what the injuries were?
I do not. I do not know the natures of the injuries. So.
Valerie, Fox 26, do you have any indication on how much the plane weighed and if it was overweight trying to take off if it was overweight?
The question is, do we know the aircraft weight, if it was overweight or what? At this point, we don't have any information on that. That's information we're trying to find out at this time.
Take two more questions.
From Telemundo Houston.
Yes.
I wanted to know, do you have maybe an estimate of the time, the minutes that passed between the crash and the people getting out of that plane?
The question is, do we know the time from when the aircraft basically departed the runway and crashed, came to stop, and then they exited? At this time, we don't have that information, but it's information we're very interested in, and that's why we're doing interviews and trying to accumulate any kind of witness videos or pictures or statements like that on that. We are very interested in that. One more right there.
Just your personal thoughts on this whole thing, your first thoughts just seeing this. I think everybody keeps using the word miracle. From your professional opinion, when you see something like this, you see everybody survive, no major injuries, is this a miracle? How surprising is this to you?
The question is, my personal thoughts, is this a miracle that nobody got hurt? I don't put my personal thoughts in this. We're here to basically gather the evidence and the facts, and that's something we're very interested in and need to know, want to know. It's obviously be key in us determining the probable cause of this accident. We are extremely thankful that there were no fatalities. When you look at the video of the aircraft on fire on the ground yesterday and what's left of the aircraft now, we are very happy and thankful that there are no fatalities at this time. Thank you very much.
May I ask just one more question? I know you said you can't put your personal thoughts, but you've briefly spoken to the pilot and passengers. Did they describe it as a miracle? What exactly have they said that you can relate to us?
Okay. The question is, and that's for everybody else here, is what do the pilots or the passengers say about what happened? At this point, I don't have any of that information because we're just starting those interviews at this time. And obviously, we won't be evaluating and analyzing that until a later date at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We will announce any other briefings on Twitter at